Yo, good looks to dreadsock.com for sponsoring this episode of Real Notes. Anyone who has curly or locked hair like me knows how sacred a good hair wrap is. A do-rag, a wave cap, a scarf, a bandana, a bonnet, you name it. Dreadsock goes a step beyond the average with silk-based head wraps that offer full protection and frizz control for curls from 2A to 4C. They're made of a blend of breathable materials to help retain hair's moisture and preserve hairstyles enough to ensure a few less trips to the salon, all held down with an elastic band strong enough to withstand even the most aggressive head trips. Whether you wear one to bed or wear one on the go, Dreadsock will have you looking fresh and full. Socks come in all sizes, from shorties for short hair and beginner twists to extra large for the longer locked folks out there. Look, y'all, I've been growing my locks for nearly 2 decades and have been a loyal Dreadsock customer for 15 years. So when I tell you these shits work, I'm dead ass. Plus, they're an independent, black-owned business that's worth the time and energy. So go to dreadsock.com and use promo code CineMasai, that's CineMasai, for 10% off your first order. They won't fall off in your sleep, but they will keep you looking fresh. Thanks again to Dreadsock for sponsoring the episode. Now let's keep this shit moving. What's good, y'all? My name is Dylan Green, and this is Real Notes, a space dedicated to blurring the cultural and artistic lines between rap and film. I'm here to chop it up with everyone from rappers and producers to journalists and video directors about their relationship to movies and how, if at all, film inspires their craft. My guest this week is Baltimore-born singer, songwriter, and creative director Joy Postell. We spoke about Netflix's Ginny in Georgia, The Dark Knight, Stomp the Yard, Love and Basketball, Remember the Titans, her time doing theater in school, finding herself as a solo artist in Los Angeles, how Baltimore, Los Angeles, and New York have influenced her music, and the creative process behind her 2018 breakout Diaspora and The Magician, the first in a series of EPs she plans on releasing this year. Come fuck with us. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to Real Notes. It's going to be the last one of these for probably about 2-3 weeks. I need a nap. I'm going to be in Chicago, and I need a nap. So, yeah, thanks to everyone for tapping in for what's been a cool season so far. This season's cooler than it is outside. It's a little frustrating, but you know, we're staying cool, we're thriving, we're surviving. My name is Dylan Green, CineMasai. Got a lot of names, do a lot of shit, be around. And we got somebody on the show today who also is around and does a lot of really cool shit and has been for at least the last almost 10 years at this point. She's a singer, songwriter, performer, designer, artist, all sorts of fun, really cool, great things. The first of 4 new EPs, The Magician, is out now. Everyone go run it up. We got Joy Postell in the house. Joy, thank you so much for being here. I was telling you off camera, but yeah, it means a lot that you wanted to connect and come on. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. I was first put onto your music around the time Diaspora came out. So that's kind of where my relationship with your music begins. But I'm really excited to dig into everything you've done and just talk about movies and how you kind of alluded before to the fact that The Magician is kind of this grand concept that you're trying to put together through these projects. So yeah, I definitely want to dig into that. And this is gonna be tight. I'm just happy you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, same.
Yeah, no doubt. So first question I ask everybody who comes on here is what was the last movie or TV show you watched that you had a strong opinion about?
Oh gosh, I'm watching one right now. Perfect question. I'm watching Ginny in Georgia. It's a TV show on Netflix. Oh my gosh, Ginny in Georgia. I think it's such a great, it's one of those shows where I'm I really dislike characters at times. It's very it hits close to home, especially as a woman, it gets very close to home. So my mom is from Ireland. My mom is Irish. So it's I am of 2 races, and it's so funny because she is the same. Her mom is white. I think she's just American though, and her mom is white. Her dad is black, and it's just just the story. Obviously, I mean, not obviously, but this girl goes through a lot. It's definitely one of those shows where I feel I don't have any children, but it puts things in perspective of how much our parents sacrifice for us and how bratty sometimes. And I just thought to myself, wow, being a mother can really be a thankless job. Just watching how much Georgia does and sacrifices and literally takes people's lives for her daughter. Her daughter is so disrespectful and out of pocket for half the show. It's insane. And it just makes me think about, like, if I had a child and like did everything that Georgia did for Ginny, I would feel awful that my daughter like didn't even understand or appreciate or even, even just kind of even set her mother up. So I have a very strong opinion about the show. Everyone should watch it.
Yeah, no, because like I heard about it. Excuse me, I heard about it, but I didn't realize. For some reason, I thought you were talking about Grace and Frankie, which is a completely different show, the Jane Fonda show. But nah, this sounds like while you were talking about it, I was just looking into it. Yeah, that sounds wild. Like, how'd you find out about it? Were you just like surfing Netflix and it just popped up on your feed?
Yeah, because I was watching Too Hot to Handle, which is like a reality show. Which is
I know Too Hot to Handle.
Okay, I love Too Hot to Handle too. I watch it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that show is so good. But then I was like, it kind of becomes mundane after like the seasons are like the same but with different people. So it's like the plot doesn't really thicken. It just like it's like every season is also the same. Like I feel like there's always a couple that's just like they can't, like they always cost everybody money. Then there's the one couple that's really in love. Then there's like hella people that just don't find connection. So I was like, all right, let me watch something a little more in depth. So I started turning on Ginny and Georgia because I think my cousin suggested it, and I was like, I just watched it and I was like, "Ooh, this is good." So
that's cute. How far in are you?
I'm season 2, like episode 3.
Mm-hmm. How many seasons is it?
There's only 2. There's only 2 so far.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And who's in it? Cause like I know
don't
what
know
it's
actors' names. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at it. But they're
good.
so pretty. Both of Ginny and Georgia are so beautiful. I do not know their names though. I've never seen them in anything else, if that counts.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's like their breakout show or what. But it's a great cast.
Yeah, no. I'm looking at the names right now. I don't recognize any of these names either. So it must be. That's cool though, honestly. I love stuff like that where it's not like, I mean, like we all love actors that we know, but it's just like dope to watch some shit sometimes. It's just like 80% people you have no idea who they are, so you can like really invest in them like as their characters versus like, oh, like if like Will Smith was on the show, it's like everything's going to be colored by the fact that you like love Will Smith, or like by the fact you might love Gabby Union, or like you love Keke Palmer, like they're just like so iconic that it's like they're the role and then they're themselves too, whether they want to be or not. So it's nice to kind of like divorce from that every once in a while.
Yeah, and then you're placing expectations on them as well. Like if Will Smith is in it, it's like I know it better be good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I know I have to like it or something like that.
Yeah, totally. And then on top of that, my mom's white too, so that sounds like relatable content. So I feel you.
Like it.
Yeah,
it's for the unproblematic white moms.
So. Heard that. That's funny as hell. So Joy, let's take it all the way back with you. What's the first movie experience you can remember having? It could be at the theater, it could be at your cousin's house. Like the first thing that comes to mind. It doesn't have to be the very first one, but the first thing that comes to mind.
Honestly, when you just said that, the thing that comes to mind is seeing Dark Knight with my aunt in the theater. It's a Batman movie. I'm sure you remember. I don't even remember what year it came out, but it was such a good movie. And I don't know, my aunt, she passed away of cancer when I was 16, and it just like it's such a fond memory that I had with her and my cousins. And then I don't know, she just loved the movie so much, and I never, I didn't have any expectations for it. I think I was like probably only like 14 at the time, but it was such a good experience. Yeah,
that's so cute. Do you remember how she liked the movie when you saw it?
She just likes Batman and like movies like that, like action movies. So honestly, she liked all types of movies. So we would always go to the movie theater with her often. Like another experience I had was watching oh my gosh, damn, I can't think of it right now. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. What's it called? Yeah, I think the Dark Knight came out in I think that was 2008, because I was like I must have been like 14, 15, or 16 around that time. And I saw there was this my hometown had a movie theater that I think might be closed now, but like we saw the movie the night it came out. And someone brought their toddler, and the toddler was crying the whole movie. So like we're trying to watch like the Joker do the magic disappearing pencil shit with Black Dynamite, like the dude who played Black Dynamite, and like he smashes his face into the pencil, and like this toddler is just like shrieking in the back of the theater, and I'm just like man,
yeah,
like
that's
I get it. Like sometimes you can't find a babysitter, but like why are you bringing your child to a Christopher Nolan Batman movie? Like
no,
the night of, like,
no, they're terrified.
But yeah, no, like it was an experience, because that was like, you know, even if people didn't really fuck with movies like that, that was like the one that everyone was going to see. And it was like, it wasn't my first Batman movie, because I'm also a fan of Batman, but like it was they definitely tried to do something a little different and make it a little deeper. And of those three Christopher Nolan Batman movies, I think that one's my favorite, because sometime after I did like a marathon. Another theater near me showed like all three of the movies back to back right before the third one came out. And I remember being so amped to see the third one, and then I left and I couldn't be more disappointed. That shit was garbage. I hated it. I thought it was really bad. But yeah, you know, it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
No, you can't help it. But anyway, you're what do you have any other memories and experiences of going to the movie with your grandmother and cousins? It sounds like it was really important to you.
With my aunt. But yeah,
excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think of this one other movie. It has Chris Brown in it, and he dies in the beginning.
Stomp the Yard.
Okay, yeah, Stomp the Yard. See, that's the one I was trying to think, because I remember specifically when we saw it in the theater, someone like was screaming. They was like, "Get off Chris Brown," because he was popping at the time. Like, Chris Brown was like a sex icon, like definitely like giving all that at the time. People were yelling at the TV screen. And then people were bringing in food from outside. That was a more fun experience. Or like even going to see like Medea in the movie theater. Like seeing movies like that, I feel like are a lot more, because I'm from Baltimore, so it's like it's a whole bunch of Black folks in the movie theater, and it's very much giving like you're with a lot of cousins, a lot of aunties and uncles. Everyone's like very vocal at the movie theater screen.
Yeah.
So I love seeing movies like that in the theater when I was younger as well.
No, it's always such an experience. I think I saw Stomp the Yard with one of my best friends. Like we that was like, everyone was falling out when Chris Brown got shot, and then Columbus Short goes to school, and fucking like Neo in his peanut head. Yeah, that was a crazy movie.
And Chris Brown died so quickly. I feel like he died within the first 30 minutes of the film.
If that, you know, like it was because he was in all the trailers, and then he just like I don't know if they might have actually said that he died in the trailer. I can't remember, but I remember it being just like everyone was just like shook when it happened, because like you said, he was just like he was up there at that time.
Yeah. That was a good time. Oh.
No, I've been meaning to rewatch Stomp the Yard, because it showed up somewhere on like one of the streamers, and I've been meaning to just like run it back just because I haven't seen it. Like that, You Got Served, like that, You Got Served, and Drumline were all like really important movies to me growing up, or at the very least, like, I remember where I was when I first saw them and like how I felt first watching them. Like they were like super duper formative to me for some reason, like
because those are also super cultural films, you know what I mean? Like especially something like Drumline, like that's super rooted in HBCU culture. Like so it's like, you know, bad like especially with like Stomp the Yard, like I'm from Baltimore, so growing up, like even during like middle school dances, they battle into Baltimore club music, so it's like, you know, it's like literally like very close to home. Like I'm like, oh look, like it's just very regular. Obviously we weren't in like a big warehouse, but I was like, you know, it's reminiscent of things that are happening, you know, in your real life. So I feel like that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. And then on top of that, I'm from Jersey. So like we also have Jersey Club, and like Jersey and Baltimore Club are like this. So, you know, like that's like,
well, we came first, but
right. Yeah. No, of course, y'all came first. But you know, just like just like having that experience and just like understanding and appreciating what all of that means. I don't know. It's just so special, you know, like it just makes the experience that much more special.
Yeah, I agree.
So like as you get a little older and you start having more life experiences, was there a movie you could think of that kind of stopped you in your tracks as something more than just like a piece of entertainment, just like something that really like resonated with you on like just like watching it and it was like a capital M movie that wasn't just like 90 minutes of entertainment?
Ooh, like something that's very emotional.
Yeah.
The first one that comes to mind is, but it's a bit younger. Like I remember I was in high school when I liked this movie, but I was super emotional over Remember the Titans. I don't know why. That movie was super emotional for me. Like I just thought it was just like I would watch it and my mom would be like, "Why are you watching this movie to cry?" I'm like, "I don't know, but it's so good I can't stop watching it." I think as I get older, I mean, I'm thinking of movies like Ray. I really love biopic films, like I feel like Ray is probably like up there with one of, you know, I mean, Jamie Foxx did such an amazing job playing him. It's
incredible,
actually,
man.
I'm like, are you Ray Charles? Like, please, I've never seen y'all in the same room. No, but no. So those are two movies that I think off the top of my head. But I'm trying to think of more recent ones, like growing up as well. One of my other favorite movies that I watch all the time growing up is Love and Basketball.
Classic.
That's a classic too. So when I think back on the plot of it, I was like, you know, really,
Yeah.
like the ending that was so romantic. I was like, wait, like he left his wife over a basketball game? Like this is super fucked up, honestly. This is terrible.
He looked dead into the camera and said, "Double or nothing." I'm like, son, you got come on now. Like,
I feel bad for all the women involved.
Yeah, man, me too. He was. I mean, like from scene one, he was never never good to Sanaa Lathan. He was never good to Tyra Banks. None of them. Just like completely dogging. Just like completely dogging her in front of other women. Just awful, man. But it's a great movie. Like,
great movie though.
Yeah, it's just, you know. I've actually talked to a couple people about Love and Basketball and like kind of looking back on it in hindsight and be was not the one, you know, like not in that way, you know, like he was just bad news.
No, it's giving Donnell Jones energy.
Oh yeah, nah.
Very toxic.
But you mentioned Remember the Titans, right? And that was like I mean I had seen Denzel in movies before, but like I think that might have been my first time seeing Ryan Gosling in a movie because I'm pretty sure he's one of the football players, and I think Hayden
Panettiere, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly.
Oh, okay. I've always wondered how you pronounce her name. Okay, cool. She that was my first time, or I didn't realize it until after I'd seen her in the show Heroes that was on NBC. But yeah, like Remember the Titans was like I also remember like being involved with Remember the Titans a lot for some reason. Like just kind of like that might have been one of the first times I'd seen like a football or like a sport movie that really like grabbed my heart the way it did. Like that's like a heartstring puller 100%. Yeah, I love that about it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. Yeah, I feel like that era. I mean, I love movies because it's like you can do so many different vibes. I'm a big fan of like romantic comedies as well. So I feel like that's a bit lighter, but we all love a good movie. That I feel like movies like that, you feel every emotion, like happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, and I think it's almost like a little bit of a high. I feel like when I think back of why I wanted to watch it so much, it's like I experienced every emotion in about 90 minutes within this movie.
Right. What was the last great romantic comedy you saw?
Honestly, I rewatch old romantic comedies. I was just suggested to watch this new one with Gabrielle Union and someone else, actually. Let me look it up.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's on Netflix right now. But the last one I watched is like The Best Man. I love that one.
Oh, The Best Man's a classic too, man. What a great movie.
Yeah. Love Jones. Oh, The Perfect Find is what I was suggesting to watch.
Right. Yeah, no, my dad was telling me about The Perfect Find. I haven't seen it yet, but
okay. I want to watch it. I love a good romantic comedy. I mean, also love, like, this is not a movie, but one of my favorite shows is Sex and the City. I probably watched that like all the seasons like 30 times.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I've never done a full Sex in the City I've never done a full front to back Sex in the City watch, but like both my parents loved it, so I know a lot about it. I know a lot about it just through osmosis. But yeah, you know, like Carrie Bradshaw and just all the just I was always kind of fucked up about Carrie's relationship with Mr. Big. He was also someone who's kind of like a piece of shit that I couldn't handle. Like
literally, just super emotionally available. I said he put you through everything. It's the sixth season, girl. Like, let's get it together. No, but that was like her one, like I feel like a lot of people, regardless of gender identity, have that one person that kind of like just can pull on their heartstrings. You know what I mean? In this series, Ginny and Georgia, she's called it her penguin. You feel me? And she's saying it because it's like someone that holds so much potential, but they never fly. And I feel like everyone has a soft spot for like that type of like ex or somebody who is like, you see so much in them, but they could never be your person because you know they'll never reach their full potential. And I feel like that is Carrie and Mr. Big.
Oh, 100%. And just like and just like having love for somebody like that in spite of yourself is just like, that shit's so weird.
It's very draining. It's very draining.
Yeah. No, draining's definitely the word. Man, so see, like that's you with movies. As you were growing up, like when did music first come into your life, and when did that become like capital M music for you?
Honestly, I've been singing since I was like, since I could probably talk. Like I did my first show, not really like I was gonna get paid for it, but I was in preschool. I did like This Old Man. So I just always like felt comfortable on stage. I was definitely like, I'm like an introvert slash extrovert, introvert slash extrovert. Like I feel like I'm introverted, but also I can be extroverted. But then I'm like, once I put all that energy out there, like after I do a show, I'll be like, all right, I don't really want to see anybody for like a couple days. Like I need to refill my cup. So I feel like music has always been that. I mean, I grew up around music. My mom was a musician and she was like a music teacher as well. So it was very normal for me. Like when I was her roadie, like I would have to carry all her music gear, like you know, she would always like she paid the bills in music. So like, you know, Friday night, Saturday night, she would have gigs. I would be a babysitter. If she couldn't find a babysitter, I'll go to the gigs with her. So I'll be like in bars, pubs, and you know, she'll be singing. So I feel like I kind of had an unconventional home life growing up.
Wow. Yeah, like how old were you when you started doing roadie work?
Honestly, when I was she probably started she made me do it. It wasn't something that I wanted to do.
Right, yeah, nah.
For the record. No, as soon as I could carry anything. Honestly, so probably fucking elementary school. As soon as I could carry a PA, mom was like, hey, could you help me get this in the car? So I'm like, oh, yes, okay, fine, woman. Bye.
Nah, I get you. My dad's a musician too. He's a musician and a roller skater. So I never did like roadie work, but you know, like you like go out to things and it's like, oh, like we're going to have a skate off, like come out and like come to the rink and it's just like the kids in the corner trying to figure out how to skate and sing, and he like does like production work and all that stuff. So like, you know, I get it. I get the whole like parents and musicians. So like you need to like come and see if this sounds good, or like come help me like move this system, pick up this guitar and strum something out type shit. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, literally. And my mom would have she would operate her like when she started expanding and like having her own private vocal clients. I feel like vocal warm-ups, like I could just like they haunt me forever. Like certain vocal warm-ups, I just Because you hear them all day, every day, just people doing vocal warm-ups. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know peace.
Yeah, nah, like that's, but you know, like that's why they're effective, because they get in your head and you never forget them. Like I haven't played piano in years, but there was one that I used to like remember note progressions. There was one called Face for like FACE, and like
Yep.
it's all still in there from when I was like 11, 12, 13 years old. Like it just never leaves.
Yeah, I mean, our brains are most formidable then, so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
Right. Yeah, no, that's facts. When did music, like when did you start thinking like, oh, like I want to like make music of my own, as opposed to just like being around mom doing her thing?
I feel like high school, because I did musical theater. I went to like a specialized middle school, or a magnet school they call them.
Yeah, we had those too.
Okay, yeah. So I was in the performing arts section, and so like in sixth grade you do all four, and then the next you do two, and then the next you do like one primary focus. So like I think we have percussion, choir, theater, and dance. So I got like, I guess once I had more formal training, I originally wanted to be an actress, actually, which I feel like plays a lot into my music, because I like to like play roles, and I feel like I'm also super inspired by other musicians who are like super theatrical.
Right.
Because like when you're a theater kid, it never leaves, honestly. But I think in high school, I went to just like for lack of a better word, a normal high school. Like didn't have any special focus. But in high school, I was able, like in the ninth grade, I heard my voice back for the first time. So at the time, there was this Baltimore club producer, J Rock, and he was like, "Yo," he was like, I don't even know. I feel like my friends, so they knew I would sing. My friends knew I could sing, and so my friend Amanda, she would always make me sing on her voicemail. So weird, like so. Any song, she's like, "Okay, I want you to sing Alicia Keys' No One," and I would sing No One, and she's like, "Guess it's my voicemail." So every time you saw her phone, it would be me singing different covers. And so my friends always make me sing. So I feel like I don't even remember how he heard my voice, to be completely honest. I'm like, was it through one of her voicemails, or maybe just, I don't know, me singing around or something like that. And he like sent me beats, and I started writing songs. And I remember like my mom was in the house, he came over and he was like, all right, let me hear what you wrote or whatever. And I remember like singing back to him, and like I was so new at it, like in the sense of writing songs, because I had always written poetry. But I was like writing songs. I remember like singing things and getting out of breath. Like I couldn't like sing exactly what I was writing, but I remember just having the desire to be like, like I like this, because it felt challenging. Like it felt like I was able to like finally find my voice, for lack of a better word, like tell my own story. And then my mom, she recorded me on, like, she had a Tascam, and that was the first time I ever heard my voice back. So when I heard my voice back, I was like, ooh, like I remember I did not like the first time you ever hear your voice back is the weirdest experience in the world.
I get it. I get it.
A certain way, and I'm like, I don't sound like that. So
right.
I feel like after that, I was like, okay, like I want to start recording, and then I started like recording covers and like little like written songs on a Bluetooth mic once we moved to LA after I graduated high school. Because I was renting school in Los Angeles, and I just felt like, yo, I'm in a new city. Like I literally don't know anybody here, except for like my aunt. Like, you know what I mean? Just like it's a new fresh beginning. I don't know anybody. I had like a new MacBook, and I just started like singing like covers, and like just like getting to know my voice more intimately. I feel like that was like a big part of it, was just like constantly recording myself singing different covers. Even then I would like write my own songs over other people's beats. And then I just started putting stuff out on SoundCloud, and like randomly I wrote HYD like that. I don't even like, probably like in like 2015 I put it on like SoundCloud, and it kind of hit. I got like 90,000 plays on it, and I was like, this is so random. But it was when SoundCloud was popping, like when you could kind of discover people off SoundCloud, know?
Right. Yeah. Definitely peak times. Yeah.
Yeah. And then people like started hitting me up in LA, and it was super random, but it was super organic. Like I was just like, yeah, I just want to like sing. You know what I mean? So then I just started like a lot of hip hop groups where, they reach out to you and you start to sing like hooks. And then I got in studios with people and kind of like got to record in like a real environment, even if it was just like a studio in someone's closet. I felt like, oh, shit, So I feel like honestly, like once I did all that stuff, I was like, yo, I really like this, because I finally felt like I was finding community. You know what I mean? Like people who were like me, because I knew I didn't want to work in an office. Like I knew what I didn't want to do. I knew like, I was like, okay, I know I'm too bossy. Like I got a mouth on me. So it's like, I'm not really the best employee, honestly, because if you talk to me a certain way, I'm going to tell you to sit the fuck down. And then now all of a sudden I'm fired. It was like, well, you did talk to me great, So I knew, I was like, okay, I'm not like that. Like, that's not really my lane. So I feel like that it was like a long, I guess over a series of those years, but the very first time was definitely in middle school.
That's tight. Before we move on, I'm still stuck on the idea of you like singing voicemail messages. Cause like because like when you said that, the first thing that came to mind was like when people used to like when 106 in Park would come on and like people would like record the songs and then just it would record like 10 seconds of the shit, and then they just be like, hey like I can't come to the phone right, like that's the first thing that came to mind for me. So it's just like cutting out the middleman, and it's just like I don't know, that's just funny as hell to me. I like that a lot.
My friends always, I've been lucky where my friends always been my biggest supporters. Like they always like, even when I was in LA, like one of my closer friends, Adelina, we'd be out. She's like, my friend can sing. You want to hear her sing right now? Joy, just start singing. I was like, okay, la la la. You feel me? Like, so I always have friends where it's like, that's why I feel like, because I'm shy, so it's like I don't tell people, like even if I'm working like a job, I won't tell people I make music. You know what I mean? But it's like, I feel like I always have to attract people who are like, oh, you can sing? All right, girl, start singing now. Sing right now.
Yeah, no, you need that push sometimes. Like, it's just like, you know, like, just like whether you're like humble or shy, like sometimes it's just like, nah, do it. Like,
literally put you on the spot. I'm like, okay.
That shit is crazy. And before we move on to like more of your progression as a musician, like as you got older and started to like really like get yourself into music for real, was there a period of time where you saw like music and film as two things that complement one another? Like that can just kind of like,
I feel like music and film go hand in hand. I feel like I'm very visual when I'm writing, so I'm almost imagining a movie as I'm making songs. Like even with my latest project, like The Magician, I imagined like it's the first part of like a 4-part film, or you could even say a play. That's pretty interchangeable at this point. But like, I just feel like you're telling a story. The music tells the story to the film. There are of course silent films, but a film with music just hits differently. And you don't even realize like, oh, you're watching a movie, and like the music in the back is what's making you know, like, oh, something scary is about to happen. Like it's telling you the story.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like even with like silent film, like even silent films have music. Like music was the only thing you could hear. And like that would I agree 100%. I think music's really beautiful because of that. And just like I always, like music is something like in the back of a film that like you don't always think about it until it's not there. Like you watch a movie like No Country for Old Men that doesn't have a score at all, and you're like, oh, there's no music here to like tell me how to feel right now. So like just kind of have to like. Sorry, what?
I said that's so interesting. I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's kind of intense, but like I didn't think about it. I had a guest on like a year and a half ago, my man Brain Orchestra, who I think also lives in Baltimore. Even though you're in New York, but like he's in Baltimore. He mentioned it to me and I had seen it, and he was like, that movie doesn't have a score. And I was like, oh, I guess it doesn't, huh? Like I didn't even think about that until he had said it. But like the music really plays such an interesting role in like how we process the images we look at. And You know, that's why this exists. You know, that's why
Yeah.
this podcast exists.
It's that, you know, and it's like walking into a store without music. Like, you know, Target doesn't play
Right.
music.
Right.
You know, but you don't realize that. But when you go into any other store, there's always music playing.
Right. And it's just like how that enhances your shopping experience. It's weird, man. Like we're like the human brain is like the weirdest thing. Like we still don't know how it fully works. And that's, you know, like stuff like that always fascinates me, for real.
Yeah. Well, music is vibration, so you know it chemically
Right.
affects the way that your brain feels. So it makes it, you know what I mean? It makes so much sense. I was watching this like YouTube video on the law of attraction. It was like talking about like waves and like how we only see 0.03% of like energetic waves. So it's like, Jesus Christ, that's basically 99% of like energy that we can't even physically see in this realm, which is actually.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, no, send me that. I'm kind of interested in like digging into that more, honestly.
Okay.
But what else was I gonna say? Oh, before we move on, or actually no. I guess we are moving on at this point. So like all of this, so like everything happens. You move out to LA. You start to like develop yourself and start putting out music and collaborating with people. Like, when did you first realize that music was going to become more than just a hobby? Like, when was it like, oh, like I'm a lifer, I'm doing this shit?
I'll say probably when I like dropped. I had dropped when I was probably dropping on SoundCloud. I feel like even now with my new release, like I'm more so feeling comfortable in that. I'm definitely someone who like tends to pick things up and sets them back down. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think with music, it's like I owe it to myself and to people who listen to be consistent. You know, so I feel like that is, to be honest, kind of like a tug of war with me internally. You know, because it's definitely one of the like industries that just makes the least sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
No one can. People can tell you. You know, I could talk to an A&R and they'll tell me one thing. Most of the time, it's square and expected. You know, but really, like you could do everything right and it go a certain way. So I feel like that's something that I honestly like. I feel like I was faking it before, like, yeah, I know, like, but I feel like now I'm like really in my knowing of like, no. This is really like truly my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's crazy to hear that like you're feeling that way now, and you've really been working at this for so long. And you're right, like it's like so volatile and unpredictable. Like it's you know, like and I'm sure you've known so many people who just like, you know, like people get started and they have something special, but like the industry and just like the way like trends and expectations go would just beat the shit out of you. And it's just like, why am I even here? You know,
It
like
takes a
it's
long time, you know, but for some people it doesn't, you know what I mean? And I think
right.
that's the whole thing of like when you hustling and you putting out all this work and then you feel like you looking around and you see people, you feel like you're not growing at the rate that you expected of yourself. I feel like people eventually like, okay, I need to start, you know, I have a family to support. Also, I feel like life happens. That's the biggest thing that people don't realize. Like, oh, why so and so, you know, stop doing music, or so and so like one of my producers, he produced Consciousness. He like don't do music at all no more. You know what I mean? That beat is like one of the most insane like beats I've ever been sent to this day. It was just so different and like just so unique. You feel me? But like
Yeah.
people have kids, people have a family, and it's like sometimes you know, you just do what you feel is right in that moment.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and yeah, you know, like you're right about just like family and like financial whatever. It's just like everyone's different. Everyone's got like you know, like we're all human. We don't know what we all have going on. But
Right.
you know, like it's like, you know, like I've known so many talented musicians who just like, whether it be musicians, rappers, producers, singers, whatever. Like just life happens and you got to go figure that out. And you know, you either come back or you kind of just like hold on to it as like a, you know, like this is mine and I'll just like indulge it when I have the time and the ability. But like, you know, it's Like I remember when Consciousness first came out and I heard it and I was just like, wow, like this is just like really, really dope. And then like right after that, or maybe I'm forgetting the order right now, but either way, like that and Diaspora were the two
Yes,
things that really just like smashed me over the head. And like I saw hella people talking about Diaspora and I was like, oh, like like I saw the cover and like you're talking about your theatricality. Like I saw that in the cover and I was like, oh yeah, let me tap in with this. This looks really cool. And I heard it and I was like, oh yeah, like like I'm all about this. Like I love the concept. I thought like the whole like Diaspora shit was like really cute and just the way you just like that's I feel like that's one thing that I've really come to love and appreciate about your music is like the theatricality of it. Like like you make like you make like what's considered like R&B and soul, but like there aren't very many people I could think of who like you were talking earlier about how you love romantic comedies and how like you really love just like the gamut of emotions. And like I get all of that from your music, like the happy, the sad, the good, the bad, the angry. And it's like it's not just there in like a superficial way. Like I feel it in your voice. And like that's not an easy thing to do if you're not like living that shit.
right. No,
you
that's
know?
real. Yeah, and I love that point you made. And first of all, thank you so much. And then,
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing too of like people have to live life. That's like a whole thing too of like, granted, if you have like certain label expectations and you have to fulfill a quota, then of course, you know what I mean? You're going to have to
Right.
output music at a different rate because you're in a legal contract. But when you're still independent and like, kind of still building yourself up, for lack of a better word, you have that freedom to drop whenever you want. You know what I mean? So I feel
Yeah.
like the some of the music I cherish the most is just like very raw and authentic. And it's from real life experiences. And it's clearly like this person is writing about something that's real and relevant. They actually have lived life. They're not just writing words down. It's not just mindless and unintentional. This person has lived life and
Right.
they're sharing it with me like I'm a close friend. It's an honor and a privilege. It's not a right.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I was doing some reading and I read the Bandcamp piece about consciousness and how like that was inspired by like you working at a dispensary and like seeing somebody who like regardless of what their life situation was like they always had like 20 or $30 for weed. Like and you just like making that into a song and just like the fact that you had the idea for Diaspora. I think you said it had like bloomed around like 2013 and it took you like from like because the album came out or the project came out in 2018, so it took like
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 years
5 years.
for that to develop. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like so like where did the initial idea for Diaspora come from, and do you think that it benefited from that like 5-year gestation period?
The thing about when I approach music is I just start writing stuff. Like I didn't know it was going to be called Diaspora till probably halfway through the creation process. Because I remember once I knew, I was like, okay, this is going to be Diaspora. I wrote it all over my wall. So I had it up there for like 2 something years. You know what I mean? But when I first started like just writing songs, I just said to myself, yo, I just want to make an album. I was like, I want to make an album. You know what I mean? That's my intention. I want to make an album. I don't know what I want it to be about, but I was just writing songs about, whatever it is I was going through. So I feel like, especially with Diaspora, that's why it's like you get love, you get like kind of, for lack of a better word, political. You get, all the different vibes on there because it was over such an extended period of time. It's like I'm kind of giving you a peek into my life over the last 6 years. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I just got a phone call and it just like fucked my whole shit up. I think like everything you said was there, but I think I lost like the last 10 seconds of what you said because like my phone went off and then like my Spotify started playing. It was weird.
No worries. No, but I was just saying, like, yeah, when I went into it, I wasn't like, this is the name of the album. This
Right.
is like the quota. I feel like when I create, that's very much like to I'm an organized person, but I feel like I'm kind of like unorganized in my creation process. Like I just write shit out, and then halfway through, like when I dropped Consciousness, I knew it was going to be called Diaspora, but I was already working on the music for like 2-3 years. So it's like, you know, and then it wasn't released till 2018. So, you know, it was but it was my first time ever putting something together. And I really wanted to, like, I had this very specific vision in my head. And I feel like as the process went on, it changed. And that's the thing too, because you'll have one intention and then it's like life happens. And then you're like, you know what, this is what it should be, you know?
Right. Around what time did you realize, like, around what time did everything start to change for what you wanted this to be?
In regards to the project?
Yeah.
I would say probably when I released Consciousness, because when I did that, I was finding community in Baltimore, and it was just like people being like, nah, like this is something good. And it was like a lot of like what you see, like all those videos, it was really just people donating their time. Like it was just people being like, yo, this girl's dope as fuck. I want to fuck with her. So I feel like that was like that's like also a whole nother part of like when you don't have a budget, you know what I mean? Like I was nowhere, like I'm financially stable now, you know what I mean? But it's like at that time I was not financially stable. So I wasn't able to fund my products. Fund my projects, if at all. It was more of like a bartering system. And I feel like Baltimore is really strong community. So it's like, you know, and we don't have like at the time, I will say, you know, everything changes, but it's not really like a place where it's like people are like, I want to, you know, use you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's very very grassroots. It's very like, yo, this shit's dope. Let's jam. So I feel like,
that's hard because you know, like you know, like when people are like, you know, when you're building community with others and they're offering you their time, like that's how you know they care. You know, like people, you know, like if people didn't care, they wouldn't be like helping you make a video without any bread behind it. You know, like that shit is so real. You know, and you know, like especially for it to have you know, like come together over the course of like 5 years. You know, like that's like an investment, you know, like not even like I mean, like, of course, like a money investment, but like a time and an energy investment, and just like, you know, like that, like social currency is really everything. And I think we're in an era right now, you know, like we really have been for the last, like, you know, like 9-10 years, but like especially now that like social currency is really like, it's so important to like not even just like making music, but like making sure that it spreads and that like people hear it, you know? And like
it's relationships and people actually liking. It's like what people say about you when you're not around, you know, because anything can be on social media, but it's like, even with this, I haven't dropped in a long time. I think last time I dropped was 2018, and it's 2020
back and forth.
Yeah, that's 2018.
Yeah, I think
so that's 5 years.
Spotify says 2019, but either way, like just like
okay 4 years then.
Still
to that same, you know, 4 or 5 years, that's a good gap. And you know, the fact that I'm able to have people still be like, yo, you know, interested in what I'm doing still, it's like, it makes me feel good, because of course, even if people don't express it, it is a little bit like, do people even care? Like, you know, like, you know, people still care, you know what I mean? Because it's so much like, it's just a real thought that you can have. And it's just nice to see, like, I had someone message me the other day, like, I'm so happy that you're releasing music again. Like, I have so many good memories listening to Diaspora. And it's like, oh shit, like, I have people that like really care and want to listen. And it makes me feel like I want to be more of a servant to like the people that care. Like, I want to give, you know, like, give more music consistently, release, don't be so in my head about what I create. Cause I think that's a big thing with artists too, is like, I have so many, like, even for this last, like these 4 EPs, they were supposed to be 1 album. But then I was like, you know what? Let me break it up into 4 acts, because I feel like that made more sense for the story I was trying to tell. And it's just Yeah, I just feel like it's just really important to just be consistent and keep releasing. Especially, it just shows gratitude to the people that are tapped in.
Right, absolutely. And yeah, nah, like it's but also like you said, like life happens, and like things need to balance themselves out sometimes. Like, of course, you move from Baltimore to New York, and
Mm-hmm.
you establish yourself out here. So like, since we're here, what talk to me about The Magician, and like the idea of, like, like where the initial idea of it came from, and then when because you already mentioned that you had decided to split it into 4 parts, but like,
Yeah.
where did the initial idea come from, and then when did you decide, like, oh, this needs to be 4 separate things that feed into a whole?
So I think the creative process for it was, for lack of a better word, similar to Diaspora. Like, after I dropped Diaspora, I had got connected with producers up in New York, and it was like kind of like a production team, and we just started making music. And that's how so when I first started making music, then I set the intention of, I want to make an album. You know what I mean? I know I want to make
Yeah.
an album, but even when you work with new producers, new people in general, it does take time for y'all to learn each other, get the flow. Also, like, everyone has other things going on too. It's like, I'm not the only artist they're working with. So scheduling, I live in Baltimore, certain things like that. So we were making music, we made a bunch of songs, and then I released Back and Forth. So when I released Back and Forth, I was still working on all these, like, originally the album was supposed to be called High Priestess. I don't know I honestly could not tell you at what point I knew I wanted to be called, but I'm a very spiritual person. Like, I practice Buddhism, and I'm not like a super strict Buddhism, because like I believe in God. Like, I was baptized Episcopalian, but I'm very spiritual. So I felt like I view each project that I release as an offering. And I was like, okay, what do I want to embody next in my life? I want to embody the energy of High Priestess, which is like divine femininity, the woman who is like, you don't have to say too much. When I come in the room, my presence is going to speak for itself. I was like, that's who I want to grow into. I knew that. I was like, that's the next offering. You feel me? So I was like, all right, cool. But then the music came together, and we were like, fuck it, let's just drop an EP. This is super fire. You know what I mean? So that was fun.
Yeah.
So we released Back and Forth, and then we kept working. We probably worked on it from 2018 to 2020, because I remember when the world was like kind of shutting down, I couldn't travel up to New York as much. So we had created all these songs, and luckily, like, most of them were finished. So I was like, okay, let's just like wrap this up. We arranged the track list, and we have rearranged the track list a couple times. And I wish I could tell you how many songs we made to choose from. It had to be at least a couple hundred, but it was a lot. It was a lot of music.
Wow.
We were just jamming though, because I would come up to New York, and it'd be like, I'll be here for 2 days. I'm in the studio the entire time I'm here. You know what I mean? So it was a super fun experience too, because I feel like where you create your music also does affect, like, when I created Diaspora, I was in Baltimore. It's not a quote unquote stereotypical Baltimore sound. When you think of Baltimore, you think of Baltimore club music and jazz. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's like very much influenced by Baltimore culture, like dreams I had. Just like, I would go to sleep and I would dream about certain shit, and I would wake up and I would write a song about it. I was like, Baltimore influenced that album, and I feel like these upcoming ones are actually very influenced by the climate of New York, where I was actually born here. So it's pretty cool, because I've never lived here, but I was just born here.
Right.
So it's kind of like a homecoming, for lack of a better words. But yeah, so then 2020 hit, and I had an opportunity to just sit with it. I started shooting music videos and kind of doing what we could. And I was encouraged to release the album. At this time, it was just High Priestess. I was encouraged to release the album during like the pandemic, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And I felt like, because we had worked on the project for so many years, I really knew that I was like, I really want the world to be open. And like, I want to be able to push my project, like do shows, like go outside. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit on the music for a bit. And I'm very happy that I did, because I was essentially able to sit with the music for 2 years and create like a bunch of content, shoot crazy videos, and just kind of put my conceptual hat on and think about it, like, how do I want to tell this story? And I thought to myself, you know what? I want to tell this story in acts. I was like, it's been so long since I've released any music. I want to kind of like, I grew up in like Lil Wayne, Gucci Mane mixtape era where they was dropping mixtapes every, and I feel like that is the energy I wanted to embody with this, except it's obviously not the same sound at all. It's very R&B, but I really wanted to be like, yo, I want to just like really drop every 3 to 4 months for the next 3 years. So I was like, all right, this is going to be the start of my new approach to music. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I've been in my head. I haven't been releasing music because I've been in my own way for whatever reason. So I had to work that out. And I feel like in the isolation of 2020, I was able to like really solidify more of that self-love. Like I'm in a place now where I'm like, nah, this shit is dope. It don't matter what nobody in the fucking room sees. Oh my God, your shit's trash. Your mom is trash. Like that's how I feel. Like it's very much like this is my child. You know what I mean? And I love her unconditionally. And I feel like I didn't have that. Like when I released Diaspora, I still felt insecure about my music, you know? And I obviously don't outwardly show it like, oh, I'm so insecure about music, but I felt that internally of like, do people like it? Oh, will people accept me? Like very much looking for validation outside of myself. And I feel like releasing these upcoming projects I feel like I've obtained like that high priestess, like, knowing like this is a part of me. I'm sharing this with the world. I love this. And I hope that you love this as much as I love this. But if you don't, that's cool too.
Yeah, you know, because you love it and fuck the rest, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so just to make sure that I got the story clear, like everything that you've made, or at the very least, like Back and Forth was supposed to be a part of this project that was gonna be High Priestess.
No, well, Back and Forth, it just came about randomly. Like I knew it wasn't going to be on High Priestess because it wasn't aligned with the message I wanted to tell.
Got it.
Like that wasn't a part of the story.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, just making sure because I just know like you know, like the creation of what was going to be High Priestess seems like it was like there was just a lot going on there, and I just wanted to be sure I had everything cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah. So I'm trying to think of. Like, oh yeah, I wanted to ask you before because you had already mentioned how Diaspora was like very much influenced by Baltimore and how the new stuff is very much influenced by New York. I was gonna bring up, I was gonna ask you earlier, like if living between Baltimore, Los Angeles, and New York had inspired the music you make at all, because like traveling is like it's just like surroundings play such a huge role in like how music can turn out. So like it's really cool to hear that was the case, and I'm happy you answered the question without me having to ask it. It's always fun when that happens.
Yeah, I feel like the music that I make in New York is a lot more polished, and I feel like, but that's representative of, I feel like New York. Obviously New York is not the most polished place, but it's like coming from where I come from, it's like it's the quality, you know what I mean? I feel like I elevated the quality of my music, you know? And I feel like Baltimore, it was just like, is very representative of the surroundings, very gritty. Like even when I listen to the mixing and the mastering of it, you know what I mean? Like certain qualities like that people, you know, who you're not thinking about that when you listen to it, you just enjoy the music. But I'm like, damn, this mix sucks. You know what I mean? Like certain things like that I had learned from Diaspora. Like, yo, I want my stuff to sound like when you play a Beyonce record, the mix sound just as good as Beyonce's.
Yeah, right. That matters. That shit really does matter. And like, you know, like I'm really interested in just this whole idea of you just like stockpiling like music and videos, you know, like even before the pandemic happened. But you know, like, and I've also kind of been caught up on the At Ease video, which I love. It's been really nice to just like sit with that and watch it. I know you co-directed that video. Was that the first time that you'd been hands-on with the video, or had you been doing that before too?
I've been doing that from day one because I am very particular in my visions. So like all the videos that you saw before that, like minus Back and Forth, I didn't direct that one at all, but I've directed all my videos. But honestly, that came out of like a place of like, well, no one else is going to direct. You know, I didn't have access to directors, but it's like I knew I wanted to shoot a video. So I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to direct it myself.
Right. And you know, like since since the video and since The Magician have been out, it's been like not even it's really only been a couple days.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like how do you feel about the reaction it's gotten so far, especially considering that it's been 4-5 years since you like last dropped the project? Like, do you feel like, I know it's only been a couple days and that might be kind of crazy to ask, but like, do you feel like people are connecting with it so far the way you might have wanted?
I do, and I feel like a lot of people are sending me personal messages, which I feel like that it's just nice that people like are thoughtful enough to share that with me. Like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, no, this is, it's just nice to hear people's genuine reactions to it. And it's like at this point, I'm excited to keep going, you know what I mean? And keep releasing the next part, and kind of keep the motion going, because I am a hoarder of content. And that is something that I'm actively working on, like not doing, because I will hoard like 4, 3, 5 music videos at once. It's actually sick. But I like to plan ahead. So, I just like to always kind of, know what my next step is before I even take it.
Right. And why do you, I mean, like you already just said that you kind of like to plan ahead, but, have you really like sat down with yourself and thought like, why do I like to hold on to this stuff like this? Because it seems to me like you're you're clearly in a place now where it's like, okay, it's time to like get it out a little more consistently. But like, why do you think you were holding on to that stuff? Because
I feel like I just was in my head. I feel like I'm, I have Virgo placements. I could blame my zodiac sign. But I think at the end of the day, it comes from self-doubt, because it's like once you share something, and it comes from a place of like, well, this is mine. You know what I mean? Because it's like sending your kid. I really view my music as children. So it's like sending your kid to school for the first day. Like, you don't know what's going to happen to your child, but your kid does have to go to school. You know what I mean? Like your kid has to get an education, or else they're just not, not going to reach their full potential. So it's like I feel like the what if was very scary for me. And it was like, well, what if? You know what I mean? Well, there's not going to be no what if it never comes out, and I just have 20 albums and 50,000 music videos sitting on my computer.
Right. And then, and then, like you said, it's all just like what ifs. And it's like, you don't want that to turn into like, like there's a difference between like self-doubt and like regret, like, and you're like, to me, and you're like, self-doubt is the type of thing that can like metastasize and turn into regret. And you're like, nobody wants that.
No.
And you're like, the thing that I've really been like sitting with, just like having listened to The Magician quite a few times, is just like, this is just such like a bubbly, like new love type of project to me.
Yeah.
And it's, like it feels very summery in that way. Like, like At Ease, excuse me, At Ease and the Sweetest Thing in particular, like that's the type of shit that I know that like, if I turned on BET now in like 2006, like that's the type of shit that I would expect to hear, like next to because like when I was listening to Sweetest Thing before we hopped on, and the first thing it reminded me of was Destiny's Child's Cater to You, which is one of my favorite songs ever. Like, I mean, like that's also a song that's like, depending on how you look at it, a little fucked up, but like I love that song. It's beautifully produced, beautifully sung. I love that song, and like it just kind of gave me like that musical vibe, like just like the music kind of just like flowed in that way. And considering that the project in general is very much like in sort of like a new love state, like if you're comfortable sharing where the other EPs might take that theme, I'm really interested to know like what else you have in store there. Like, you don't have to spoil anything if you don't want to, but
No, I mean, honestly, so the 4 EPs, they're going to represent the 4 stages of a relationship. And it's so funny that you mentioned, because I was a huge Destiny's Child fan growing up. So I feel like a lot of my influences, they're going to be subconscious in my sound. You know what I mean? Because I grew up on a certain era of R&B. So like, even when I try to get on like newer, like I wouldn't say trendy, you know what I mean? But I guess like, I don't know what to call it, like trap and B, you know what I mean? More like trappy stuff. I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes I'll feel out of place. You know, like I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is just not my pace, you know, but I'm like, oh, okay, the era I grew up in and the sound, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. But the next four parts, it's just the four stages of a relationship. So then the next EP is going to be called High Priestess, and that represents like the stage after love, where the new love, excuse me, where it's like you starting to settle into the relationship, and now they're not super getting on your nerves, but you know what I mean, like the rose-colored glasses are off, and you've been in a
Yeah.
relationship for long enough to have little icks about that person. It's
You're at
not
the honeymoon
major.
phase. Yeah.
Literally, the money phase is over. Like, you
Yeah.
don't put down the toilet seat, it's irritating me type of shit. Like, very much those little things.
That's great. I love that. That reminds, cause what's it called? The Big Crit's last album did something kind of sort of similar, and I didn't think it worked the way it needed to. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see somebody actually like go for that and like make and just like flesh that concept out. Cause like, you know, and then, you know, like to your point about just like just like a different sensibility that isn't in the realm of like, because like I'm a big like plug and B person. I've been listening to a lot of plug and B lately for some reason. Like I don't know why. Like it's like you know who like you know who like Summers is?
Summer Walker?
No, somebody else named Summers. He's
Oh, no.
I forget where he's from, but like plug music is kind of, I don't know how to describe plug music, but it's kind of like electronic, like chip tune sound. It's like a combination of like trap influenced stuff and like chip tune influenced stuff. It's weird to describe. Like
Okay.
it's one of those things like you hear it and it makes sense, but like, you know, like I've been on that kind of wave lately, you know, like with people like my homegirl Lucille Gotti. She put out a really great album that's in that vein. Summers does stuff like that, and you know, like it was just really cool to, I just appreciate you being like, hey, all of that stuff is tight, but like this is what I like, this is what I grew up on, this is what I know, and this is what I'm gonna do for now. You know, like the fact that, you know, like the fact that you don't feel the pressure to like wanna
No.
hop on like all the trendy shit. Like that's cool, you know, because like it can be hard sometimes when it's just like, oh, look at all these people doing this thing over here that's getting all this attention, you know, but like you just kind of, you know, like that's that determination and just like, this is who I am, just like not running away from who you are, because you know, like
No.
I can tell like this is you. You know, like
Yeah.
like you know, you said it earlier, like you're giving yourself to people,
Right.
and that's really sacred and intimate. And you're like I'm not necessarily the most spiritual person, but like that's an aspect of music and like I guess spirituality that I've always really connected with in terms of music. Just like I'm gonna give part of myself to you, and we're gonna marinate and vibe off of that. Like that's a spiritual experience, you know, like
Yeah.
regardless of what your denomination is, you know.
Yeah.
So like I appreciate that manifests in your music and just hearing you talk about it now. Yeah.
Thank you. And I will say some of my favorite current R&B artists, like you can hear it in them. Like when I listen to Jasmine Sullivan's music, I hear classic R&B. But that's her
Incredible.
vibe. You feel me? Like that.
Right.
When I listen to even Summer Walker, her shit sound like throwback R&B, but it's more polished. Ari Lennox, same
Yeah.
shit. You feel me? This is like the shit, you know, like this is like soul music. You feel me? Like this is really like you can feel that shit. And I feel like that
Yeah.
is like my most favorite part about R&B music, especially when I was growing up. It was just like feeling. You know, it was you could tell that they went through something to share that part of them with you. And I feel like I'm inspired by the women that, like those three women, I feel like they're keeping R&B alive. Even like Coco Jones, she got like, you could throw her on in 2001, she would have went up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
her vibe is classic. You feel me? And when you see, like, when I see people like that gaining attention, like I believe she won Best New Artist, it make me feel like yo, just stay in your lane, keep doing what you're doing, because people want that. You know what I mean?
Right.
People do want that soul shit, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, nah. And it's so crazy you bring this up, because I was just talking to my sister about this a couple days ago. Like Joyce Rice is somebody who's in that lane too. And like her album Overgrown that came out a couple years ago, I've been going back to it a lot because like that's like like I feel like we grew up on similar music. Like A Marie's I think the album is All I Have, the one with Why Don't We Fall in Love on it. Like that's one of my favorite albums of all time. I love that album. Like that's like When It Gets Warm Out, Gotta Be There, and Why Don't We Fall in Love are like some of the first two songs I play. Like when the springtime comes around, like that's when I know like, oh, it's springtime. Like
and it's the reason why those songs get played back so much. You feel me? So it's like even like when I go out to the club, they be playing stuff that was popping. It's just crazy how long certain songs will rotate on the DJ's playlist, where it's like, now this really dropped in 2005, but y'all still play it. Like When I See You by Fantasia, that's never not gonna go up. It's never not gonna go up, but that's a classic. That is a very classic R&B sound. You know what I mean? That is, it's timeless.
Right. And like it's still around, like I've like, like I consciously came into this interview not wanting to like bring up the whole like the state of R&B. Is it good? Like I hate that conversation because it's fine. Like there's so much good
R&B. A great place. Yeah.
Right.
There's so much R&B music coming out right now. It's actually, when people say that, it just lets me know they're not looking or they're not listening in the right place, because I can name 15 new artists off the top of my head. Like I love Xavier Omar too. Like
he's great too.
So good. He's so good. Giveon. There's so many great. Once again, Giveon, like, and all these. It's a classic sound. Music recycles itself. It's just like fashion. Nothing is new under the sun. It recycles itself.
Right. Yeah. No, like Q-Tip said it on the Tribe album, everything moves in cycles. I think about that all the time. Like we're at the point now where like 2000s nostalgia is at an all-time high. Like everyone's really into the early 2000s right now. So that's just like it, right. Exactly. Like it just moves. It always moves in like 20-year increments, so like that's just kind of how it works. And like, yeah, like I said, like before we hopped on, while I was like writing my questions, I was like, just the whole like, is R&B in a good place conversation. It just makes me so mad because like you said, like it's like, because it's like it's a weird argument because people aren't looking and they're kind of like dependent on either algorithms or other people to tell them what to find. But at the same time, it's like there's so much music that it can be like dead overwhelming to just like. It's a complicated topic, but like either way, like the music's there, the feeling's there. You bring it. All the women you mentioned bring it. All the men and thems who are in there, they all bring it. So like it's just there's never been a period of time where I felt like there's been like a dearth of R&B or like, oh, we don't have like, well, I'm missing that. Like no, like, and even if you're not, like just go bump the old shit. Like it's there. Like,
Listen, no, we good. Listen, as long as my president Jasmine Sullivan alive, we good. No, that's my president. That's the president of R&B.
Oh man, shout out to her. Once again, like that Jasmine Sullivan album, fucking incredible. I spent like a good like month just listening to that shit back. It was just
crazy.
Man, and like I remember when Bust Your Windows first came out. Crazy. And like that was a huge hit. So like, and like amazing. To see that,
absolutely,
right, man. Like her story is just like, because like that was a huge hit. She put out albums, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I know she kind of went through some things and had a lull, and then Hotels was like the big like I'm back, and like Hotels is just like the way that came together and like the theme and how she like got all the different people to come in and give their stories. And like I always think about the one where like the one woman was about to marry somebody, and then she wound up having an affair with somebody, and they wound up getting married. Like I think about that interlude all the time, and like, like your music has always like circled around themes and like kind of worked with concepts. And like even if they're pretty loose, like Diaspora, like I consider Diaspora to kind of sort of be like a concept record. You know, even if it's
Definitely
not like a
conceptual record.
right. And you know, and of course, like this Magician series is like, you know, like it's thematic. There's a concept there. It's not like you're trying to tell like it's not like it's like a Mr. Morale of the Big Steppers. There's some crazy, like heady, like I gotta sit with this 20 times to figure out what it's about. It's just like there's a theme here, and you explore that theme through your music. And I guess like my second to last formal question before we wrap this up is like, what do you love about working within concepts? Like what is it about a concept and a theme that makes music more attractive to you versus just like, here's a project with like 6 songs on it, enjoy? Like,
I just feel like it's a complete sentence. I feel like it's just like thematically correct in my brain. I think once again I grew up on albums. So it's just like,
right.
even if it's an EP, I'm going to put together an EP like an album. Like there's going to be a start and a finish. Like when artists choose, like I know when I choose my track list, it's very intentional. There is a reason why that is number 1 and that is number 4. I'm telling you
Yeah.
something that way. You know, so that's just what works best for me, and I feel like it pushes my boundaries, and it gives me like you know, laser focus. Like this is the end goal. Got it. I don't know how I get there. I zigzag up and down all around to get there, but somehow at the end we end right where we're supposed to.
Right. Were there any specific like movies or shows or anything like that that kind of like clicked with you as like, oh, this is something that I'd like to, like, whether it's like a theme or like some sort of like cool effect somebody did through a narrative device or something that was like, I want to put that in a project?
No, no,
Okay.
I haven't felt that yet.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just always curious about that because, you know, like that's just what I'm here for. You know, I'm just always about that inner working relationship. But like I just think like, you know, like your projects are like, they're like their own self-contained worlds. You know, it's just like you can tell that you put a lot of effort into making them flow into one another in a certain way. And you know, like there was a period of time where I thought that might not be, I mean, like people, not everybody wants that sort of thing, but like enough people want it that it's, once again, it's there. Like if you're looking for that type of work, it's there, you know?
Yeah,
And
and as an artist, I would never create around what people want. I feel like that literally anti-art. If you know what I mean, like why would I create what other people? That's insane. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
create for myself. You know, if a tree falls, it's going to fall if you saw it or not. So, you know, I
facts.
think that for me personally, that's my biggest thing. Like that's one of like the integral parts of me. Like that's part of my integrity of like I make art regardless of who's listening because I'm an artist. Period. It don't matter if 5 people are watching or 500 people are watching. Joy Postell is Joy Postell. Period. This is my real name. I was born with this name. I don't have no
Right.
alter ego. Ain't no mask on this shit. None of this. This is really who I am, and that's how I create my music.
Let's go. Own that shit. I love that. That's fire. Yeah, no, sorry, you got me amped up. And on that note, Joy Postell, if your life was a movie, what would it be about?
It would be about a girl who was born in New York and then moved to Baltimore, and then she had a dream, and then she moved to the big city to make her dream come true, and she hustled and hustled, and then you watch her fail so many times. She was always like, "This bitch is not gonna make it." She failed so many times, but then at the end, she made it, and then she's a rich, rich woman. That's what my movie about.
Who's playing you in your movie, or are you
Me.
playing you in your
I'm
movie?
playing
Okay, yeah,
me.
there you go.
I'm
There you
playing
go.
me. I'm playing me.
Yeah, no.
I'm on my
You,
bullshit. Pizza Cole just played herself, so I feel like it's possible.
yeah, no, it's 100% possible. You know, like you're gonna you're gonna do for yourself what Jamie Foxx did for Ray Charles. Let's put it that way.
Like this is me now. But if it could it be me, who would it be? I don't know. mean, I guess they're actors. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know anyone who could play me. But I'm sure I meet somebody. I would have to hold auditions.
Right.
I would like it to be a random person you never heard of, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I would like to give an opportunity to preferably someone from Baltimore too, where it's like, you know, like someone you've never heard of that just has big dreams and they're just a really good actor. And I'm like, that's who's gonna play me. Someone you never heard of.
Right. Yeah. Nah, man. Oh man, what a great way to bring this full circle. Just like the idea of like you you know, like going back to the show you were talking about before, like just with like people who don't have that expectation on them. Like, yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I know I know you'd write it on some like Antoine Fisher shit too.
Absolutely. I'm like, and I'm directing it.
Right. You ever see Antoine Fisher before? The movie with Denzel?
No.
It was I'm like, I saw it once when I was a kid, but it was a movie about I think he's like a Marine or something, but like the big thing was that like it was like the guy who the movie was about, he wrote the screenplay. So it was like and like that doesn't happen all the time or like ever really. It's like super rare. But like it was, you know, like I remember looking at the back because I had my father had the DVD and I looked at the back and I was like, written by Antoine Fisher. What? Like that shit kind of threw me for a loop, but like that's gonna be you know, you know, Joy Postell, written and directed by Joy Postell. Like,
I mean, it's my story, and whenever people are not an integral part of their biopics, you feel me? Like I feel like they always complain. So it's like,
yeah,
what other options do you have?
Right, absolutely.
You know?
But Joy, this was such a pleasure. Like, thank you so much.
Yeah,
like,
thank you for having me.
No, man, no, it's my pleasure. Like I said, yeah, you know, like I said, I've been a fan for a minute. Now that I think about it, I think I might have actually heard about you through Pink Sifu, who I think is a mutual friend of ours. Yeah, now Liv's the man. Shout out to Liv. But like either way, like I just it's been really dope to see you grow, and I'm happy that you're back and that you're like stable and feeling ready to bless people with new shit. And I can't wait to hear the next 3 projects. You know, I'm gonna definitely definitely be living with the Magician for a while. So yeah, no. What'd you say?
I said the Magician out now.
Out now. Go stream it. Go buy it if you feel saucy. Like, make it happen.
Buy that.
Please.
Thanks for listening. Shout out to y'all for making it this far. And shout out to all the Black people listening too, because y'all really impeccable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend to come through next time. 1.